We got Quincy on the other line, right?
We do. We're going to bring Quincy in after a quick word from Game Time. Guys, we've all been there before, logging on, waiting forever for tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot to the show or game that you've been dying to see. Live events should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying your tickets online with the Game Time app. Just download the app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in Quincy Carrier to the show. Quincy, how you doing today, my man?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Man, look at this, man. The most requested in the game, Mikey McNuggets. I don't know how you booked him. He's finally back. He's been on here a few times. He is back in the building. And listen, trust me, every time I be doing something, they be like, where's Quincy at? Where's Quincy at? Where's Quincy? I said, listen, I've been trying to get him, man. Listen, Quincy is a busy guy, man, but we appreciate you popping back on, my guy.
I appreciate you guys having me.
That's a nice hat. Let's get to the Browns quarterback situation. Like so far, obviously you got the Shedeur Sanders. He played, and then you got Dillon Gabriel, and then they named Joe Flacco. Let me ask you this to just start off, man. What have you thought about the competition in general, and what do you think the plan was going into it prior to the competition?
I've always felt like the plan was we got Joe Flacco, we got Kenny Pickett. Those are primarily going to be the two guys competing for the starting job. And the idea would be, hey, if Kenny can look better than what we know Joe Flacco to be, then Kenny takes the job. But if Kenny can't outperform that, then, it's going to go to Joe. Obviously, Kenny didn't even really compete because he got injured so early in camp, and Joe got to go out there and demonstrate he still can do some of the stuff that he did in 2023. So the job ended up going to him. I think this kind of went as planned. As far as the whole competition goes, look, when you have a four-way competition, the expectations are always going to be low at quarterback. But there's been more moments of encouragement from all of these guys than I expected to have so far in camp. So I would say I'm as happy as you could be with the team that does not have a quarterback.
When we get to the end of the season, who's going to start the most games? Who will have started the most games at quarterback?
Who will have started the most games at quarterback? Yeah. I'm going to go, I think Shedeur get in there late. I think he'll probably get like 6-7 games. It's probably going to be Joe. Joe's probably going to get like 8 games. So I would go Joe Flacco.
So you don't think that leaves 3 for Kenny and Dillon?
I don't think Kenny's going to start a game for the Browns this year. That's my hot take. But, yeah, I think Dillon gets in there. And, look, Dillon, I thought, had some nice moments in his preseason game. I still think there are some serious questions about, like, a guy that small when defenses are actually game planning for him and taking stuff away from him. What's that going to actually look like in an NFL game? And it's nice to see him execute the offense, but I think that teams are going to find ways to really make that height matter because he doesn't have an athletic skill that really makes up for the fact that he's much shorter than the average quarterback.
When you look at Flacco and his skill set and what he brings to the table, do you think he won't start more than 8 games because of injury? Do you think that they're just going to be like, yeah, we're 2-6 at this point. Like, let's just move on to the kids. Like, when does that change happen, and why do you think it happens?
There are so many reasons why Flacco probably won't make it to 17 games that make me believe that he's not going to play anything close to that. He just hasn't done it since 2017. I mean, Josh Allen was still at Wyoming the last time he started a full season. The age is also a factor, right? 40 years old. It's not necessarily the big injury that'll get you. It's the accumulation of smaller and smaller injuries over the course of a year. It's the AFC North. There's going to be, some of the best edge runners, some of the best defensive players that you're going to run into in the NFL, in this division. You got to play them a couple times. All of that Plus, the Browns might be at a place where it makes no sense to have a 40-year-old starting, and it makes a lot more sense to put one of those rookies in record-wise, right? So all of those things could happen. I mean, I can see Joe Flacco only playing 8 games if this team has a good record. I can see Joe Flacco only playing 8 games if this team has a bad record. There's just so many things going against him realistically that make me believe that he's just not going to make it past probably the bye week.
We got to this, and this we kind of talked about this earlier, the overarching theme, right? And we talked about how you look at the quarterback situation and you say, okay, you got Dillon Gabriel, you got Shedeur Sanders. From an organizational standpoint, where do you think the priority is with those guys? Because the obvious thing is you have those picks coming up next year, right? And we've been kind of talking about it, and as I watch some of your blogs and you talk about it, you seem to see some things that you didn't necessarily think that were evident in their skill sets. Do you think that those things are something that the Browns have seen, and does that change their rationale and what they're going to do next year and evaluating quarterbacks in the next year's draft?
Yeah, I tend to be on the side of what's going to determine if the Browns go at quarterback in the draft is going to be what their position is and what they think of that class. And it's not really going to be based on what they feel about Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur, because at the end of the day, they took these guys in day 3, day 2. If they really, really believe that they found themselves a franchise quarterback, somebody who can compete with Joe Burrow, they would have been willing to take those guys a lot earlier than where they took them, right? So just off the bat, I don't think that they're that high on Dillon or Shedeur just based on where they took them, right? So if there is a quarterback next year, and let's say you have a top 5 pick, whether it be from Jacksonville, your own record, I don't think they're going to say no if Lenore Sellers looks like a top 5 pick, or whatever quarterback you want to insert there looks like a top 5 pick, and you have the resources to go out and get that guy. So I think that element weighs heavily, right? Just what these quarterbacks look like. Is there going to be somebody who makes sense for them? Are the Browns going to have the opportunity? That's going to matter a lot more than like specifically what Dillon or Shedeur looks like, because this front office, for better or worse, has demonstrated they are not going to compromise at quarterback. They had Baker Mayfield here. They decided they wanted to upgrade. They went with Deshaun Watson. There's a bunch of different theories on why that decision was made, but that was the basis behind it. We need to get better at quarterback. We need to be elite in this conference to compete. And they're going to pursue that no matter what. And if they thought Dillon was elite, if they thought Shedeur was an elite prospect, they would have took him at the top of the draft, right? So that kind of tells me where they're at. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, you got to see these guys to make a decision on what you want to do at quarterback. I think these guys and what they do this year has a lot less to do with what they do at quarterback at the top of the draft than what we're assuming.
Quincy, the offense in general, we spent a lot of time obviously talking about the quarterbacks, just the offense in general. What is the strength of this offense, do you think, and is it dependent on who the quarterback is?
I think they really want the strength to be through the offensive line, the run game. And we've seen some good stuff so far in the preseason from the Browns offensive line, the Browns run game. We haven't seen the first team out there yet, obviously, but you heard good things in joint practices. So I think that's really where they want their strength to be at. As far as like, can the quarterback position amplify? I think like Joe Flacco can legitimately help the run game because he's not a one-dimensional thrower. He's going to attack downfield. He's going to keep those safeties away from the box. He's going to air it out in a way. So I think there's going to be a lot more you could do with the run game with like a Joe Flacco out there. What you don't want to have happen is what happened with DTR last year, where it was so condensed that you just couldn't do anything because he couldn't go downfield. Everybody was already in the box, which killed your run game. So I think having somebody in there who's willing to go downfield, which to the respect of every quarterback that we've seen so far, either in camp or in the preseason, Kenny Pickett excluded, Dillon's gone downfield more than I thought he would. I think Shedeur, we know he's going to go downfield. And then Joe Flacco obviously has a long-standing reputation for attacking deep.
How screwed would the Browns be if this injury to Denzel Ward were serious?
They're in such a bad spot if Denzel Ward is hurt. They're not in a great spot now. I mean, I think the injury, I think the injury to Martin Emerson has put us at a place where we're not even asking questions about Greg Newsome, who is extremely questionable at that other corner position. We're just so worried about everything behind Greg Newsome that we're not even focusing on the fact that, like, the number 2 guy there, we have a lot of questions about. I mean, he's not somebody we were banging down the door for Andrew Berry to give an extension to, and he's already in the last year of his rookie deal. So, yeah, it's not a great spot. I mean, Cam's not been great in training camp or in preseason. Miles Harden, I don't know if he's ready yet. Like, I watched the preseason games, and I don't know. You can tell me what you think, Dustin. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think Tony Brown's the best corner they got out there in these preseason games, and that's just not where I think they want to be.
Well, these aren't names that are household names. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a chance that we mentioned this earlier, like Tony Brown or James or and Newsome. I mean, these guys are not names we've heard of, but they could turn out to be good players. But right now, it doesn't give us any confidence in that depth chart. You know, I mean, Denzel Ward's the only guy on that list right now that I feel like is a bona fide, like, we know what we're getting. The other guys, it's a crapshoot, man, at this point. So, if the Browns are going to have a good year, like, their defense needs to be what they were a couple of seasons ago in terms of, like, creating turnovers and getting off the field and creating short fields for an offense that's going to struggle to score points. So without Denzel Ward, I think they'd be totally screwed. I mean, they'd be shit out of luck without Ward back there.
Yeah, especially when your defensive line is expected to be as dominant as it is. Mm-hmm. Myles Garrett's obviously a threat. Teams are going to be looking at that secondary to bail them out of having to deal with Myles Garrett. And if you can't stop that bleeding, I mean, there's nothing stopping the team from just spamming that all game.
All right, so yeah, let's get to this, man. We want to do. I got something in my mind called the Nasty Work Award, and we're going to figure out which one of these guys you feel has the best capabilities of putting some nasty work out, given multiple reps with ones or playing time. I'm going to go to first. Cedric Tillman.
We're using nasty as a positive, right?
No. This is bad work. Oh. This is not. This is
bad. Okay,
this
so
is not
you
good.
say this is gross.
Nah,
okay.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Right. Deontay Johnson, Cedric Tillman, Zach Zinner. Which one of them got to give you? Because I have not been impressed by none of those 3 right now, and I'm confused by it.
I think Deontay Johnson's the guy that you have to go with. I mean, he's already put some pretty nasty work on tape here. Week 1 wasn't really good for him. I thought week 2 was slightly better. I mean, I thought the interception was more on him, but then watching all 22, it was less on him. It was more on the tight end. It's just been pretty underwhelming, and I think the thing that makes it worse is that this is a former All-Pro, and we were sold on the idea that the only thing that you have to worry about with Deontay, right, was would he get along with the coaching staff and the team, right? Like, he was supposed to be ready-made as this player, and we're not seeing that guy that used to be in Pittsburgh, that guy who used to be a Pro Bowler. We're seeing somebody who, you know, sometimes you question the effort, sometimes you question how much he really wants to be there. The one-on-ones are really the only times that I've seen him really shine in camp, but like this team setting stuff, it has not been what you've expected for somebody who's a former All-Pro and has been primarily going up against second team units all off season. Like, he just has not looked like that guy. And I think that's nasty right there, right? Cedric Tillman, we'll see what that looks like. I think he put up some promising work last year when he got the ball after the Deshaun Watson injury. And then who's the other guy? Zach Zinter?
Yeah.
You put out Zach Zinter. I've not been as down on Zach Zinter as other people have been. So I think Deontay's is one that stands out to me the most, and I would put like Cam Mitchell in there as number 2.
Yeah, I forgot his name. Yeah, I would put him at 2 because his goal line work. Tyvus was breaking down really quickly. What do you expect from Isaiah Bond? What were your thoughts on him coming out of college? Do you think he'll be an impact guy sooner rather than later on the offensive side?
You know, expectations are based off of like what you use to get a player, and I think the fact that the Browns didn't have to use a draft pick on Isaiah Bond makes it a lot more friendly that they're going to get him. Like, I think he is somebody who is going to remember Travis Benjamin. Like, he's that type of player, right? At best, if you draft that guy in the 3rd round, you're going to be pretty disappointed because you're expecting him to be able to develop into like a 1 or 2 receiver. But you get that guy, $3 million guaranteed, didn't spend a draft pick for him, still was able to get who you wanted in the third round in Harold Fainin. I think you're fine with it, right? So I think the fact that he's undrafted, the fact that you didn't have to spend a draft pick for him makes his outcomes a lot more favorable for the team than it would have been if they would have spent the third round pick on him. He's a fast, shifty guy. I will give him this. He dealt with some of the most inaccurate quarterback play you can deal with in college football, right? We're talking about junior year Jalen Milroe, who was very inaccurate, and then Quinn Ewers, who was less accurate than Jalen Milroe last year when it comes to on-target charting. So he's not had great quarterback play in his college career, which might have affected his numbers, but he's also doesn't have great size. He's light. He's not going to be really useful for the long spurts of time. He's going to be more of a gadget guy, but you hit on a gadget guy as a UDFA. That's a good thing, right? You draft him in the third round. It's not a good thing.
Quincy, the Browns are unlike most teams. They're keeping 4 quarterbacks on the active roster here, right now. That's not going to be the case for a long period of time. It's not going to be the case next year. We know that. They'll probably end up with a top pick that'll end up being a quarterback. So with that being said, who's the odd man out next year? Would it be, because I think that obviously one of those rookies, Gabriel or Shedeur, will not be here. Who do you think it ends up being?
So you're talking about like 2026?
Yeah,
not like this
next
season?
year. Like next year. Because we got 4 quarterbacks this year. I get it. There's no chance they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks next year.
Yeah, and then you got to factor in Deshaun because he's probably not going to tear his Achilles.
I'm not even counting. I'm not really even counting Deshaun.
I forgot all about that.
I'm sort of not even counting him.
If we're talking about 2026, he's got to be on the roster, right? Because you're probably going to do the whole let him sit, be inactive all year, but spend the contract out. This thing's gonna get pretty messy next year, right? Like, there's no way around it. You're probably gonna have the 2 rookies, Deshaun Watson, and maybe if you draft somebody, that's gonna be who's here. And I think you're hoping that you get enough from one of these rookies this year that you can say, hey, I feel good about one of them starting, and then you can play whoever you draft. It's not going to be like the most comforting quarterback room because Joe Flacco's probably not going to be back next year. I mean, we'll see what Kenny Pickett's future with this team is. I'm not very confident in it. But yeah, there's a lot to figure out there, right? Because, we're just factoring the odd man out between these 4 that are here right now. Next year, you're going to have to factor in Deshaun because they're more than likely going to wait till the offseason after next season to cut him, right? So they can get off that contract cleanly.
Is there any world where Shedeur Sanders is not on this team come 2 weeks when they go against the Bengals?
In 2 weeks?
Yeah,
no,
2
he's
weeks.
going to be on the team. He's going to be on the team, G. I don't think they trade him. You think they trade him?
No, I don't think they trade him. Some people saying cut.
Nah, that's
which
crazy.
Is
that's
wild to me. I just had to see. Because here's the thing, the odd man out, right? I thought the odd man out was Pickett. Maybe it's just me. But given the depth chart, they obviously like Kenny Pickett.
I think you got to put Kenny at 2, though, right? I don't know if that's like a true reflection of how they feel about him. It's just that's what they sold him when they traded for him. You put him at 2, but I don't really think it's impossible for him to be usurped at that number 2 spot. He hasn't practiced at all. They seem pretty comfortable running a good amount of the offense with Dillon Gabriel. They've even given Dillon those like first team reps at times. I really wouldn't be surprised if Dillon ends up being the backup week 1 if that like had to be how things broke out. I think Kenny is much more vulnerable than I guess like some people think, other people think, because I think he's clearly the odd man out in my eyes. And maybe that's just hating because I've never been a Kenny Pickett fan, but
I'm with you. I've been well documented. Like I got thousands of blogs documented. I'm just asking. I just want to get you. I want to get you on the record for it because I don't see it. I don't see it.
I think Dillon's the backup if Pickett's hamstring isn't ready. Then I think Dillon's the backup, which is entirely possible. I don't know. I don't know how far along he is in the progression of health with the hamstring, because it kind of sounded to me like it was severe when it first happened, and then I was told like he's making great progress, and now here we are all these weeks later, and he's still not back yet. So obviously it was pretty severe to begin with.
Yeah, I thought he did 11 on 11s yesterday, but it's I think Kenny's whole opportunity here when he got traded here was like, hey, you're going to get the bulk of reps in training camp to prove that you can be a starter. And I'm like, I don't know what you do with him, with the fact that you got a pretty much an incomplete grade from him in training camp. Like, do you just hang on to him for like half the season to see what he looks like while you're trying to win games with Joe Flacco? It just seems like, a lost investment here if you're the Browns. Like, just eat the 5th round pick. Maybe you could recoup like a 6th round next year if you could trade him. If you can't trade him, then like try to squeeze him on the practice squad if nobody claims him on waivers. But I think you just got to take the L here on Kenny Pickett if you're the Browns. The same way that like Philadelphia's probably taking that L on DTR as well.
DTR looked. Oh boy.
He looked familiar. That's what he looked like.
Looked terrible.
Yeah. Is that the worst player you ever gave a nickname to, G?
Yeah, he's probably Haagen-Dazs. That was the
Haagen-Dazs got a starting job with Arizona.
What's his name? Froholt.
Yeah.
I named the Haagen-Dazs, but he starts now. But Quincy, man, we appreciate you, man. It's good to see
Mike,
you.
You had one?
Yeah, Quincy, real quick before we let
ahead.
you go. The Browns, obviously their win projection on all these sports books is 4.5, 5.5. Are you higher on the Browns this season than the outside perspective is? Do you think this could be a playoff team?
Why'd you think
I don't think it could be a playoff team. But I think there's a lot of room between the over on that 4.5 and 5 in the playoffs. I think they are a 7-win, maybe if they get good field goal kicking, decent quarterback play, 8-9 win team. But yeah, I don't think they're as bad as everybody thinks they are, but I'm not going to be so optimistic on this team that I think they're going to make the playoffs because, like, they got a lot of they got a lot of points of inconsistency on offense that you just can't ignore, right? The run game, have no idea what these running backs are going to look like. You're relying on a really old offensive line to power that run game, and your quarterback is 40 and is not the most consistent guy to begin with. And then, like, the other thing, that the secret about this whole team is like, hey, man, Dustin Hopkins, I have no idea if he's good anymore, right? Like, and for a team that's going to live on the margins, like the Cleveland Browns are trying to live on the margins this year, the field goal kicking is going to swing you a game or two, right? We see this in Pittsburgh every year. Chris Boswell is one of the best kickers in the league. That keeps them afloat every year. Yeah, they got so many inconsistencies in those key areas. I can't comfortably predict they go over 500, but I do think that they have enough talent on this team to be at least a 7-win team.
Quincy, thanks, man.
Appreciate you, man. As always, make sure you go check out his YouTube channel. He's the rational version of G. Bush.
You have a good one. Thank you guys for having me on.